Before we begin, before pleasantries, before tea, before anything civilized, I need you to sit with one fact, one single staggering fact. Every galaxy visible through that window is moving away from you, right now, as we speak. The universe is not standing still, waiting to be admired. It is expanding, fleeing from itself at velocities that would shatter the imagination of any reasonable person. The light those galaxies emit has been stretched, pulled like taffy across billions of light years until it redshifts into frequencies almost too sorrowful to measure. I have called that phenomenon physics. Tonight in this lounge, we shall call it something else entirely.
And on that characteristically theatrical note, welcome, Philoglot crew, to the Philoglot Lounge. I am Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin. The gentleman still savouring the sound of his own voice is the extraordinary Edwin Hubble. We are floating somewhere between wonder and vocabulary this evening, which is, I think, precisely where we belong.
Extraordinary. I shall accept that graciously.
Tonight we are exploring the intersection of science and art, and why the verbs we choose to describe our discoveries may reveal more about us than any equation ever could. But first, and this is important, Philoglot crew, stay with us until the very end of this episode. We have prepared something rather special for you, the Cosmic Verb Collection, a downloadable PDF, entirely free, containing regular and irregular verbs, usage examples, and enough cosmic metaphor to make English grammar feel like stargazing. Think of it as a linguistic telescope. More on that gift shortly.
Do not wander, Philoglot crew. The universe rewards those who remain. Now, Cecilia, I want to advance an argument, and I want you to dismantle it, because that is, as we both know, precisely how science progresses. My argument, mathematics is the only true language of the universe. Everything else, poetry, metaphor, painting, music, is decoration. When I observed the Cepheid variable stars in the Andromeda Nebula and calculated their staggering distances, I did not reach for a paintbrush. I reached for an equation, and the equation was sufficient.
And there it is, the great Hubble fallacy, preserved in amber. Edwin, permit me one question before you pour yourself another certainty. When you first observed those Cepheid stars, what allowed you to perceive that they were significant? Not the equations? Not yet. Before the mathematics came. The looking, the sustained, almost meditative act of directing your attention towards something without yet knowing what it meant. That act, my dear Edwin, is an artistic one.
Our Philoglot crew deserves a pause here. The verb observe, from the Latin observare, meaning to watch over, to attend to, is not merely a synonym for see. To observe is to see with intention. I observe the redshift in the spectral lines. Past tense, observed. A regular verb, observe, observed, observed.
And to perceive carries something deeper. To perceive is to extract meaning from what you observe, to engage the mind, the intuition, and yes, the aesthetic sensibility simultaneously. She perceived that the hydrogen lines dominated the stellar spectrum. Perceived, also regular, but the act it describes is anything but ordinary.
I will grant you that perception precedes calculation. But perception without quantification remains mere impression.
Precisely, which is why both are required. When I analysed stellar spectra at the Harvard Observatory, when I stared at those absorption lines until the patterns began to speak, I deduced that the sun was composed overwhelmingly of hydrogen. My supervisor, the formidable Henry Norris Russell, told me my conclusion was, and I quote him faithfully, clearly impossible. He believed stars must mirror Earth's composition. He had the mathematics, I had the perception, and I was correct.
Completely, historically, profoundly correct. You illustrated the chemical architecture of the cosmos before the instruments were refined enough to quantify it fully.
Two more verbs. To illustrate, to make an abstract truth visible through concrete example. Cecilia illustrated the composition of stars through spectral analysis. Regular, illustrate, illustrated, and to quantify, to express something as a measurable numerical quantity. Decades later, scientists could quantify what she had already perceived. Also regular, notice that language like the cosmos contains orderly regions, and then there are the irregular verbs. Which brings me to a question I have been saving for precisely this moment. Edwin, you mapped the architecture of the universe. You built a cosmological framework that rewrote humanity's understanding of its own scale and significance. You demonstrated that the Milky Way is not the entire cosmos, but merely one galaxy among billions, each racing away from all the others. My question is this: sitting in that observatory at Mount Wilson, alone in the dark with the universe expanding silently all around you, did you ever grieve?
Stay with us, Philoglot crew, because that answer, and what it has to do with the irregular verbs of the English language, is arriving right now. To your question, Cecilia, yes, there were nights when the scale of what I had found felt less like triumph and more like vertigo. To know that our entire galaxy is one grain of sand among billions of beaches is a discovery that humbles before it liberates. And I believe that tension lives inside the English language itself, particularly in its irregular verbs.
This is the heart of our deep dive tonight. Irregular verbs are not exceptions to the rules of English. They are relics, linguistic fossils of an older, more turbulent evolution. They changed shape under the pressure of centuries, the way stars transform under the gravity of their own mass.
Let us move through several together, as if charting a constellation. To seek, sought, not seeked. The word fought its way through centuries of usage. We sought answers at the outermost edge of the observable universe.
To build, built. Every theory we built stood upon the shoulders of those who had sought before us. Notice how irregular verbs force the tongue into unexpected shapes, as if the language itself is reminding you that great things are never built smoothly.
To understand, understood. For centuries, humanity understood itself to be the center of all creation. The telescope corrected that comfortable illusion.
To find, found. I found hydrogen dominant in the stars. My colleagues found that conclusion impossible. Discovery, it turns out, does not negotiate.
To grow, grew. The universe grew from a singularity, a single, almost incomprehensible point, into a structure so vast that light itself cannot outrun its expansion.
To think, thought. We once thought the Milky Way was everything. Edwin thought otherwise. He proved it.
To draw, drew. Early astronomers drew the heavens entirely by hand, without cameras, without computers. Only patience, candlelight, and the willingness to stay awake for truth.
To know, knew. And perhaps the most important of all, what we knew was always smaller than what remained unknown. That is not a failure, Philoglot crew. That is an invitation.
Each of these verbs carries the weight of a human story. They are not merely conjugations on a grammar chart. They are the precise actions of curious, restless, brilliant people who refuse to accept the boundaries imposed by their moment in time.
We began tonight with a staggering fact. The universe is expanding, every galaxy accelerating away, the silence between them deepening. One could find that desolating. I choose to find it magnificent.
Because in the midst of all that expanding silence, on one unremarkable planet orbiting one ordinary star in one galaxy among billions, something extraordinary unfolded. A species developed language. It wrote poetry. It built telescopes and sought the edges of everything it could imagine.
It observed, and in observing, it grew.
The universe does not distribute meaning freely, Philoglot crew. You must earn it, through curiosity, through vocabulary, through the discipline to remain in the company of complexity until it resolves, like a great chord, into something you recognize as beautiful.
Which is, we believe, exactly what you are doing, every single episode.
To claim your Cosmic Verb Collection, your free downloadable PDF filled with regular and irregular verbs, usage examples, and enough wonder to change how you see both language and the cosmos. Visit philoglotlounge.com. Download it, study it, share it with anyone who seeks to grow.
Subscribe to the Lounge because our next expedition ventures somewhere even further, into the grammar of time itself.
Until then, Philoglot crew, keep seeking, keep building, keep growing.
The stars, as always, are watching.